Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Wellness Chronicles. This is where we talk about everything diabetes, basically how to prevent it, how to manage it, even how to reverse it in a scientific, evidence-based way, and to make it as simple and understandable as possible. I really hope that Wellness Chronicles is a platform that you choose to come and get motivated, to be supported, to try and get to be the healthiest you possible. My name is Pooja Patel. I am a registered nurse and diabetes educator from Toronto, Canada. Now today, I want to talk about the most common things that patients ask me, and not just patients, but people even in the community. So my kids' school, for example, the neighbors, family, friends, people who ask me most common questions as it relates to diet, lifestyle, diabetes, and everything in between. So today I'm going to be answering those questions in the most diabetes educator way possible. So I'm just going to read off those questions and I'm going to answer it as I would as a diabetes educator, as I would my patients. So the very first question is, what exercise is best for me to do as a patient with diabetes? Now, as a diabetes educator, I think all exercise is great. Any physical movement, any exercise, yoga, tai chi, walking, going up and down the stairs, playing with your kids, gardening, anything that is going to burn those calories are excellent. But if I were to suggest longevity and suggest quality of life and suggest something that is going to keep you healthier and stronger in the long run, I almost always suggest weight training or weight lifting or resistance exercises. And the reason I suggest resistance exercises is because of three things. So the very first thing is muscles like glucose. Okay, so it's great. Muscles are great for soaking up all that extra glucose that's in your bloodstream. So the more muscle you have, the more glucose it's going to soak up and the less insulin resistance you have because there's less insulin floating around in your bloodstream. So as a result of that, I always say the first thing is increasing your muscle mass, and that the only way that happens is through weightlifting. So I recommend that 3 times a week, and Diabetes Canada recommends that 3 times a week. Actually, there was a study that was done, it was a great study that was done, that for every 10% of muscle mass that's increased, your insulin resistance goes down about 11%, which is great, right? Because all you're really doing is exercising and getting healthier. The second reason why I like weight training exercises is the older we get, the more muscle we need, because we're going to be losing muscle mass as we age. It's just a natural aging process. And so as much as you try to maintain or build that muscle, the better it is for you in the long run. Third thing is, the more muscle you have, your muscles are constantly working. Even if you don't think you're working them, they're constantly working. So once you've lit that muscle up, it's going to work for you for at least a few hours, depending on how much you've worked it and how much you've exercised it. So you're losing weight or you're burning those calories even when you are not exercising, even when you are not resistant training, even when you are just sitting around doing nothing, because those muscles are still active, they're still contracted. So not only are you burning those calories and losing weight, you're also burning visceral fat that's around your belly that causes those metabolic issues, that causes heart attacks, that causes strokes, that causes all of those diseases that we don't want. So all exercises are great, but for longevity and quality of life, I absolutely recommend resistance training or weightlifting 3 times a week. The second question is, whenever I have my coffee, my sugars run always high. What can I do? What do you put in your coffee? So that's a great question. So the very first thing I like to say right off of the bat is get rid of oat milk. Oat milk is just starch juice. It's taking away all of the good stuff in the oats and just giving you the starch. Get rid of oat milk because it causes glucose spikes and it's super, super high in GI. So get rid of oat milk. I absolutely recommend full fat milk, cow's milk, But if you are vegan or you are lactose intolerant, then I suggest a nut milk like an almond milk, or even a soy milk is okay too. The thing with sugars, with blood sugars, is one day the coffee works for you, the next day the coffee doesn't work for your blood sugars. So it's always a little bit of trial and error to see where the coffee might fit for you during that day. So the one thing is, maybe try not to drink coffee, even if it's black coffee. Try not to drink that coffee first thing in the morning. The reason is because if you haven't had a good sleep or you're extra tired, you already have high cortisol levels. And the second thing is, when you drink coffee, your cortisol rises even more, which increases your blood sugar. So try not to have coffee on an empty stomach. I always recommend that, whether you have diabetes or you don't. The second thing that I always recommend is have a good hearty breakfast and then have your coffee. So if you have a good hearty breakfast and then have your coffee, it's possible that your sugars might not rise as much. Okay, how can I eat dessert without spiking my sugar? Oh, this is a great question. I love it. So a lot of people will say to me, oh, you know what? I just have to get rid of dessert from my life because that is the culprit and it doesn't work for me. I have diabetes, XYZ. So no, you don't have to get rid of dessert from your life. I'm a desserts girly. I love sweets. And anybody in my family, you ask them, they will make sure that there's something sweet before there is something savory to eat, whether there's a meal or not. I almost always have to have dessert. So dessert, you should only have as that, dessert after your meal. So if you are going to eat something sweet, don't have it as a snack, have it as a dessert after a good hearty meal that includes protein, fats, vegetables, so fiber, for example. After having a nice balanced meal, have your dessert. This will minimize the glucose spike that will happen as a result of the carbohydrates, as a result of the sugar that's in the dessert. The second thing that you might consider doing is having a healthier or a lower GI dessert. So for example, instead of having a sorbet, because really, what is a sorbet? It's just fruit juice that's blended and that's made into ice, right? That's a sorbet. So if you have an ice cream, for example, the ice cream should theoretically decrease that glucose spike as compared to a sorbet. The other thing that I have to deliberately say is not to take metformin just because you want to have extra dessert. Don't do it. Oh my gosh, don't do it. It's the most detrimental mindset to have. What you should do is, if you are going to overeat during a day, for example, maybe you have an event or a festival or something like that, or a gathering, it's absolutely fine to overeat. Sometimes it does happen. It's okay once in a while. But if you are going to overeat, don't give yourself an extra dose of metformin. It doesn't work. It's not insulin. Metformin has a ceiling effect. There's only so much that it's going to do before it doesn't do anything, okay? So don't have the extra metformin if you want to take an extra dessert. Plan it so that way you're not getting so much glucose spikes. So for example, have your hearty meal, have the big dessert that you wanted to have, and then maybe go for a walk. If you normally take a 15-minute walk, maybe do 30. Pair it with something to bring that GI value down so you're not getting those glucose spikes. So that's my second recommendation for those who say, how can I have my dessert without getting those glucose spikes? Okay, so the next question is, what foods do you recommend that a person with diabetes avoids? Nothing, absolutely none. It is not possible to avoid food in this day and age. I know for me, for myself, if I tell myself I have to avoid eating a certain kind of food, that is the kind of food that I crave all the time. So no, I don't recommend it. It's not sustainable. It's not going to work, because what's going to be on your mind is your dieting. And we don't believe in diet culture. I don't believe in the diet culture. I always think that you should absolutely eat everything, but in moderation. Have cookies, have chips, eat those things that you want to, but in moderation. Okay, I think that is the name of the game: moderation and consistency. So if you have eaten something today that you knew you should not have eaten, Maybe the next day, don't eat that same thing. Moderate yourself. Give your body that little bit of break to recover from what you've already done to it. Okay, so don't eliminate anything, moderate it. Okay. What are the top 5 strategies you would give to someone to try to lose weight and manage their diabetes through lifestyle? So the first thing, do not eat until you're full. Don't do it. Move your body after every meal. Plate your meal before eating, okay? So vegetables, protein, carbs, milk or juice or whatever it is that you're going to have, okay? Plate your meal so you visually see what you are eating so it is satisfying to your brain and your stomach. Have a dessert over a sweet snack, okay? So desserts always go after meals. Don't eat something sweet as a snack because that's going to spike your sugar and you're constantly going through those peaks and valleys and crashes, and that's not good for your diabetes, it's not good for your health, it's not good for glycation, okay? And the very last thing is, and this is the most important thing, is interrupt your sitting behavior. Interrupt your sedentary behavior every 20 to 30 minutes. Go for a walk around the block. Do some stretching. Just go and talk to somebody. Do something. Move your body. Every 20 to 30 minutes, every hour, move the body. Okay? So those are my top 5. What is your favorite go-to breakfast? Now, I'm a culprit for this. I don't usually like to have a good hearty breakfast, but I do believe that there is a lot of science that breakfast is certainly the most important meal of the day because your body is refeeding after an entire night of fasting. So it is very, very important to have breakfast. But again, I'm a culprit like that. I don't really like to have breakfast. But when I do have breakfast and I do force myself to eat some breakfast, my go-to is overnight oats with some Greek yogurt and chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, and some almonds, and maybe a piece of fruit with it, like a banana or some berries or something like that. So I put that all together overnight, and then I just eat it in the morning. So it's great for me when I'm in a rush to get to my kids to school to get my day started. But again, it's a struggle for me for sure. How do you interrupt your sitting behavior? That's a great question, actually. I interrupt my sitting. So as a registered nurse for about 20 years now, I have developed this habit of applying cream to my hands, applying lotion to my hands. Ever since my nursing days, my bedside nursing days, I always have this habit of putting lotion on my hands. So what I do now is every time I wash my hands, even at home, and while I'm applying the lotion, while I'm massaging the lotion into my hands, I do squats. And it just so happens, it turns out to be about 25 squats while I've applied the lotion. So this is great because it's a type of resistance exercise. So I'm working my quads, I'm working my glutes, and on top of that, I'm interrupting my sedentary behavior. So I try to do that maybe not every hour, but I try to do that about every 3 to 4 hours. So why are my fasting sugars so high even if I haven't eaten anything? So that's a great question. So the first thing that you should be checking is what you had for dinner and what you had the previous day. So if you had a really high carb meal for dinner, it's absolutely possible it's moved on overnight and it's into your fasting sugar. The other thing is you also have to look at what you have been eating overall. So think about what you have been eating, and if you have not been eating balanced meals, low GI meals, then your fasting sugars are going to be high because your fasting sugar is basically your baseline. But the other thing also that sometimes a lot of patients can't really help, even though they have been eating really good or they didn't have a high carb dinner and they've been eating balanced meals, they've been getting their steps in, etc., is the dawn phenomenon. So a lot of patients have this issue where, everybody goes through the dawn phenomenon, is basically where overnight your body overnight between 3 and 5 a.m., your body releases growth hormone and cortisol, and these hormones are released and they actually spike your blood sugar. So your blood sugar goes up. So now patients who don't have diabetes, their bodies are able to handle that extra sugar because of the hormones. But patients who do have diabetes, their fasting sugars tend to spike a little bit. And so a lot of times what we do recommend as diabetes educators is to have the CGM machine. And the CGM machine tells you exactly, gives you a great idea as to if it's as a result of those hormones or if it's because of what you've been eating or, just what your lifestyle has been like recently. So that's one thing. If you do not have a CGM and if you are just checking your fasting blood sugars just as is, then I would absolutely recommend that maybe it might be worth waking up at just 5 a.m. to do a finger prick just to check to see what your sugar is like, because this pinpoints the problem and that way we are able to address the problem. And we can make a plan according to that. So there's two things. Check to see if you are eating well overall, like a balanced meal. And the second thing is if you really are experiencing the dawn phenomenon or not, okay? I like this question a lot. I hate checking my blood sugars. Do I really have to check them so often? So I actually provided this information on one of my previous episodes that Diabetes Canada suggests the following. So if you take insulin more than once a day, you should check your blood sugars 4 times a day, right? Post meal and your fasting and your bedtime sugar. If you are a patient who is managing your blood sugar through diet, lifestyle, and only metformin, then you can check it randomly. You don't have to check it once a day, twice a day. It can just be randomly any time of day. But as a diabetes educator, if you are struggling with your blood sugars, if you feel like that your random blood sugars are also very, very high, then I would suggest also checking your blood sugars 4 times a day. If you hate checking your blood sugars because really you feel like a pincushion, consider getting the CGM at least for a month and track your patterns, track your food, track how well you did with the sugars and how it made you feel. And this will give you good evidence, it'll give you a good idea to make a nice actionable plan. So I know you don't like checking your sugars, but that's the only way you know what you're doing is working. Okay, so this is something that I get quite often, especially living in the UAE. How and why did you become a diabetes educator? So many reasons actually. So I have grown up with a lot of my family with type 2 diabetes and even type 1 diabetes. And I think there's a missing link that I found was education. So diabetes is very easily managed if you have type 2 diabetes just with diet and lifestyle. You just need to have the right tools and right resources. And so as a diabetes educator, I enjoy providing those tools and resources and seeing that patient journey, seeing that projection, or seeing that progression of a patient going from a A1C of maybe 7 to an A1C of 6. Like I really enjoy seeing that and seeing that progress of my patients. The other reason is I actually had gestational diabetes myself when I was pregnant with my first son. And so that really opened my eyes up to how much we don't know in terms of what we are putting into our bodies, in terms of portion control, in terms of GI values of food, in terms of what is healthy, and how it impacts our bodies in the long run. So that's another reason, is because I had diabetes myself, and it really made me realize how difficult it was for me to change my lifestyle so that way I had a happy, healthy baby who did not have blood sugar issues. So that was one thing. And then the other thing I think also too is a lot of people I know from my family, from my friends in the community, all they really need is a little bit of motivation, some support in the right direction to make it easy to implement those lifestyle changes. With that is the end of the Q&A or the frequently asked questions. So if you feel like you've taken away anything from this episode, anything at all, I need you to do 3 things for me. The first thing is I need you to share it with one friend or family member who you think can benefit from this information. The second thing is if you can like and share this episode, or like and comment on this episode with any feedback that you might have, or any topics that you might want me to bring that are evidence-based in the future. I'm happy to do that. In fact, I welcome that. And the third thing that I need you to do is subscribe to Wellness Chronicles, because if you feel like you've taken away anything from this episode, I only post things that are scientific and evidence-based, so that we have a happier, healthier community in the future. So until next time, please stay happy, stay healthy, stay kind.